right. Good morning, Estelle. Thank
Good
you for
morning.
thank you for sitting down with me for Saturday morning coffee in Bloomingdale.
And it's
Um,
a beautiful morning too.
it sure is. Um, Tell me, I know that you've lived in the neighborhood for something like 22 years or so.
Yep.
Um, Tell me what your relationship is to the neighborhood. Is this your ideal place to live?
No, when I first came to New York, um, I lived on the Upper East Side. I was afraid to come over here. And Johnny Kander, who turned out later to be a very big writer of musicals, um, lived on the West Side. And so he was a friend. And I called up and said, I'm coming now. Uh, Come outside and meet me because I'm afraid to go to the West Side. So he came out and met me, and I came to the West Side. But then, after my first marriage, I couldn't. I had to. All my money was gone, and I had to find. I was just starting to act then, which means I didn't have money up till then. I had money from being on the Today Show, so I couldn't find a place in the village that I thought I could afford because I really couldn't afford anything actually when I was trying to be a stage actress then. So I found an apartment at 84th and West End for 100, 7-room apartment for $165. So I took it. No, I got it for $200, and then it turned out a few months later, after we'd moved in, that the guy was cheating us, and he could only charge us 165 by rent control. So I lived there then from the 50s right up into the 90s, and we wanted to move out of there. I met my husband in that building. We wanted, and he had an apartment, so we had two apartments, and then we combined apartments and all that stuff. And then the neighborhood got terrible, Coach was on the corner and Victoria's Secret. There used to be a lot of funky little places, Date's Dairy and stuff. So we moved up here, which was very funky up here. Everybody said, don't go above 96th Street. You can't go above 96th Street. So we're in 105th, and we came up, and there was a funky little place in the corner where guys played chess, and they had a big sink there. So if you wanted a glass of water, you went over to the big sink and got a glass of water with your coffee and stuff like that. And now it, of course, is this awful Serafina, which is some kind of a terrible chain. We tried it actually 3 or 4 times, and every time decided it was the worst food we'd ever eaten. So now we shun it. But now, of course, because of the pandemic, there's no sidewalk left. They've built another house there for their clientele, and the Cafe du Soleil has taken up the entire rest of the block. And
Do you miss Henry's?
Weird. Do we miss Henry's? Oh, terribly. Yes. But a wonderful woman's moving in there. She had the place down in Riverside Park this summer.
Yeah, Ellington in the Park is moving to that corner. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
I always thought Henry's was like our Cheers. It was such a nice place, a little bit
Yeah.
pricey for its time. But you mentioned my favorite cafe. I want to get your oral history of that place. Do you remember the name of that place on 105th Street that was?
I have no idea. Did it even have a name?
And it became Cafe Amiana at the end, and it was selling Middle Eastern food. I bought my apartment because of that restaurant.
No. I don't think you're right about that.
It may have been a different name, but the restaurant you're talking about had
it was Toast at the end, remember?
And then it became Toast, and then it became that meat restaurant, Carne. But before,
they were run by the same people. I think the Toast and the Carne were run by the same people. No,
could be.
I don't know. I don't know anything about the neighborhood, so you probably know a lot more.
Just to go back to that cafe, you evoked exactly how I felt about it. It was this quirky hangout coffee house. It had backgammon sets. It had chess sets. It had this big picture window with scrubby plants vines growing, and you walked in and you sort of felt like you were in some bohemian world. And I
Yeah.
have been questing for this place and details about it and pictures of it for years. The owner's son or nephew or someone commented on one of my blog posts about it, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head. So that helped you buy into the neighborhood too. You like that vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. We like people, we don't like big business. Or
Yeah,
I should say, I don't.
yeah. Well, we have to do something about our mom and pops because the what's happening in the street scene, the commercial scene is devastating.
Yeah.
So I want to acknowledge your fabulous career, and I
But speaking of what's happening in the neighborhood, what I think is that uh, all you read about is how terrible things are. But the fact is that there are people of great resilience and great capacity who are taking a look at what's going on and dealing with it. And how come there isn't more of a spirit in the media of how people are grappling magnificently with a very difficult time and
I
making things work as best they can for everybody, and everybody is trying, and I am trying too. I mean, we're all trying in every way we can to get through this as a community, not as an individual person.
I
I mean,
agree.
that's the way I feel. Of course, other people may feel differently.
No, I think I agree with you absolutely. I feel that we're going to come out of this pandemic with some serious lessons that we need to look at. And one is how when we look toward our community, we
Yeah,
can build it so much stronger. And
yeah,
there's been a tremendous solidarity starting last March.
yeah,
Um, and I think we're all going to look toward, I hope we're all going to look toward our commercial neighbors in a similar way, the ones that really need a hand.
yeah.
Otherwise, we throw New York to the dogs. It's over. There's nothing left, in terms of that street life. But I hate to tell you, I think sideway dining is here to stay. The sidewalk cafes, the expansion of restaurants. I don't think they're going to put that genie back in the bottle.
Oh, yes, they are.
You think
I
so?
mean, the way it is, and these places that have built structures on the sidewalk, they're not going to be able to keep those structures up.
We'll
I,
see.
for one, am going to call Helen Rosenthal and say, get rid of those structures because there's no sidewalk left.
I know there's no sidewalk.
And why would you want to be there? I mean, I went to La Sirene. It's down on Amsterdam and maybe 81st or something. And so I had to sit and wait. I ordered these popovers and I was taking them home. So I had to sit in one of these structures, and you're sitting there looking at the gutter while you eat. Who wants to do that? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to imagine what's gonna be operative when we're back in the real world. I hope it will be soon. But so let's talk a little bit about what it's like to have your life interrupted in terms of your work. You are a woman who's used to.
Well, listen, when you're in the theater, which I am and I choose to be, I don't work all the time. And all my life, I have never thought of myself as anything but a human being getting through life. I never thought of myself as being, oh, an actress, I have to act. I don't feel that way at all. I feel, if I wake up today and say, oh, I'm not an actress, I'm going to be a something else, I'd try to be a something else. So I don't feel strongly about acting. But so the fact is, I'm living my life now in the same way that I lived my life before. Every day comes up and it's different. And since I only act things that I want to act that I believe are perhaps worth acting, then I don't work all the time. So I think for people like me, and for people who call themselves actors and do work on the theater, on the stage all the time, we're used to not working. So it's a little easier than people who have all their lives been what we call civilians with civilian jobs, which are now gone. You see, our job is never here all the time. Our job is always here and gone, here and gone, here and gone, here and gone. The terrible thing about the pandemic is the inability to interact with other human beings. That I say that as a creative person, you know. I don't have to do anything. And that's how I live my life. Uh, but I do have to, I do crave relating to other people. Like I could spend my life sitting at a sidewalk cafe, you know, with friends. But you can't do that. And I find that really hard. Fortunately, I have a wonderful marriage. I have a wonderful husband. And we do a lot of wilderness trips. So we're used to being on our own in the middle of nowhere with bears and everything else. So we're okay with it because we enjoy each other's company. We enjoy each other's intellectual stimulus, so to say. And so it's cool. But the interaction with the rest of the world is what's it's
Yeah,
very corrosive not to have that.
yeah, I agree. I think
I mean, there's a reason why the worst punishment you can get in a jail is or a prison is solitary.
solitary, right? Yeah, I think the mental health piece of this
Yeah,
currently and coming out of it is going to be really tremendous
yeah.
and incalculable. I mean, it's not superficial to talk about theater in that context, but I mean, what's true is some of your compatriots in the acting world have figured out how to continue to perform online. And one
Well,
thing
if
that
they want to do it, okay, but frankly, it's not the same.
it's not the
I
same
mean,
yet.
what I do is entertain people. I'm not really interested in looking at a camera. If I did, I would be a movie star. You know, heaven knows I had great opportunities to do that. I'm not interested in looking at a thing like this, you know,
Yeah.
and acting. I'm interested in being with people.
Have,
That's my whole life.
when
And,
you're on the stage, that alchemy with the audience must be a high like there's no other high.
and with other actors as well,
And
you know.
so when do you think we'll be back spectating the stage and on the stage?
I don't know. I think people are talking about in the fall of 2021 or the beginning of 2022.
Do you have some plans lined up already?
Oh, sure. I mean, I was stopped in the middle of a terribly important play about racism that I have. And we were just about to go to Delaware and develop this because it's about the Dred Scott case and the Judge Tawney, you know, where he said that Black people weren't, I don't know what he said, weren't going to be citizens or something terrible. Anyway, I don't want to think about that. But anyway, I have a marvelous play about that, about racism and blacks and whites and getting to the truth of the matter.
Will
So
you be
blacks
direct?
have a truth and the whites have a truth, and they both are saying that's not the truth, that's not the truth. So it's a wonderful, wonderful play, and we were just about to develop it in workshop at the Actors Studio and at our summer places that we can go to develop things. And then this occurred, so that I can't wait to get back to. And then I have another play that I'm going to act in, which is a kind of Sam Shepard kind of family that ended up in Stamford, Connecticut, which I'm very excited to do with Austin Pendleton, and my friend Ted Zerkowski wrote it. So we're doing that for the Frog and Peach Company when the pandemic is over. So I have my next projects lined up. I'm also doing a little film of a two-character play about this Dred Scott decision, which was so devastating to the Black race. And the two-character piece about a descendant of Tawneys and a descendant of Dred Scotts. And the descendant of Tawney gets in touch with the descendant of Dred Scott and wants to meet. So the descendant of Dred Scott is a professor And Tawny is, I think, an advertising executive in New England somewhere, and they meet at a rest stop in New Jersey. Uh, one comes down, one comes up, and they meet, and Tawny wants to give him the gavel that his great 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 uncle or grandfather had at the Supreme Court. And the black guy says, I have the weapon in my hand, don't I? I don't want this, he says. We want better housing. We want better education. You know, he names off all the things that we know today, you and I here talking like this. We know the black race has not had. New York City has the most segregated school system in the country. So it's dealing with all those things, and that's what I'm working on.
That sounds really great and very, very of the moment.
Yeah.
That's a good place to stop, Estelle. I think you leave us tantalized by what's to come and hopeful about where we can go. So thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Well, it's lovely to talk to you. I hope I'll see you on the street one of these days.